10 years. Has this job, how this job is seen in New York City, has that changed over the last 10 years?
Yes.
Has the way that security officers been compensated, has it improved from 10 years ago?
Oh, yes.
Do we still have a long way to go?
Yes.
Okay. So if you feel that way, then you all should have that fire in the belly about contributing to making that change that we need to make. So I got to tell you something. I think when we first had the idea of organizing security officers, everybody said it couldn't be done. Then when we had the idea of fighting for a $15 an hour minimum wage, they said it couldn't be done. So what's going to happen at the end of this month? It's going to be done, right?
Yes.
So that's pretty good, right? So some of you may say, wow, our contract is only at 15 and it's only going to go to $15.50 for some of you in July. So that is why we need to keep fighting. But I need to remind everybody in this room, the other fundamental part of what we were able to win through our bargaining 3 years ago was family health insurance. How many of you use the 32BJ health insurance? All right. So 5 years ago, I would ask the question, how many of you have the 32BJ health insurance? And only a couple of the hands would go up. Getting all members, or almost all members, to have family health coverage has been a battle. And that health coverage costs $10,000 a year on top of your wages. So that $10,000 a year covers yourself, your spouse, and your kids up to age 26. They cannot take a single penny from your check to pay for your health care. The employer, the City of New York, or Morgan Stanley, or Citigroup, or Bank of New York, they pay for your health insurance. Your dues do not pay for your health insurance. Your dues are around $700 a year. Your health insurance costs $10,000 a year. So we have won not just moving that $7 job to $15. For some folks in this room, if you're on the City of New York contract, or you're making $18 starting on January 1st if you're at the full rate. You all know that, right?
Yes.
The city folks, you're around $17.40, maybe a little bit higher than that. So we've come a long way. Security officers today, in some cases, have $30,000 to $40,000 more in wages and benefits in 1 year than they did back in 2007. So this is a constantly changing thing with new people coming in, and it's very important to remember where we came from and what this job used to be. But the cleaners in New York City make almost $26 an hour. The residential members make $24 an hour. The schools cleaners make almost $26 an hour. We're still in the same union. We need to continue to fight to catch up to where they are. So this is something that the only way we can do it is if this division of security officers starts acting more like the cleaning division and the residential division in terms of how they see the union. If all of your coworkers see the union as the vehicle that's going to get them to higher wages and benefits, and understand that you get out what you put in, then we can go to great places. Many of you in this room have been in this struggle for 10 years with us. All of your union reps have been in this struggle for 10 years. All the folks you see coming to your work sites or who you talk to when you have a problem have been in this journey. And I should tell you that throughout 32BJ, we are now 32,000 security officers strong up and down the East Coast from Miami all the way to Boston. You can clap for that. It's pretty good. So I always like to just start talking about directly like what the situation is for security. I would also say that if you look at, in the last 8 years alone, we've organized an average of 700 new members a year into 32BJ, and major building owners like Boston Properties and Rudin and Paramount have agreed to be union for all of their buildings in New York City. Silverstein, every new building that goes up at the World Trade Center has 32BJ cleaners and security. Every single building that gets built at Hudson Yards up by 33rd Street has 32BJ cleaners and 32BJ security. The new building that's going to go up by Grand Central, the Vanderbilt building, that's going to have 32BJ members in it as well. So we are making sure that new buildings that get built, and also any developer that gets subsidies from the city or the state to build their buildings has to be union. And we make sure that we lock down those jobs. When Amazon comes to New York City, those jobs are all going to be 32 BJ. And that's
right.
Yeah. So we used to say security is the newest and the fastest growing division in 32 BJ. But guess what? We got a new kid on the block. Do we know who that is?
Trump.
Who's the new kid on the block? Airport workers. So, yeah, let's hear it for them. So, somebody tell me what's going to happen for airport workers over the next several years. It's already started, but it's going to keep going. Can someone tell me what number they're going to get to?
19.
David, $19 an hour, and they were just making $10 an hour very, very recently.
Wow.
And you remember the fat man out in Jersey, the governor, Chris Christie?
Boo.
I live in Jersey. He blocked what we were trying to do for 30,000 airport workers for the 8 years he was in government. He stood in the way of all the airport workers having a path. Some of the people who were doing wheelchairs and baggage were making $3 an hour.
Oh no.
I mean, that's modern day slavery. And we needed to end that, and it wasn't until we elected a governor in New Jersey who was of the Democratic Party, Phil Murphy, when he got together with Governor Cuomo and responded to the struggles and the strikes and the protests and the civil disobedience and the job actions and the rallies in the cold, in the rain, in the snow of airport workers. The same way we did it in security. Now we have almost 10,000 airport workers have joined the 32 BJ family.
Yes.
So, as they used to say to introducing the sports, they'd say, let's go to the videotape. So we're going to do that right now.
War to war.
That's right.
That's a big deal. I work with a better attitude. I'm not stressed. Life is good. And we're not done yet. That's it. Yeah.
I'm so happy. I'm elated, I'm excited, it's unbelievable, but I'm glad it's a place today.
I will encourage my co-workers and anyone that I meet along the way. Keep fighting. We're a family.
So, is there anybody here in this room who during the last 5 or 6 years went to any of our events that having to do with helping to stand in support of airport workers? Great, stand up if you went to an airport action. Stand up and take a bow. All right? So, I like to remind folks that before there was a security division in 32 BJ, the cleaners from the office buildings and the residential doormen and doorwomen were the ones who stood up and came to the rallies for security officers. We got to pay it forward. Support the airport workers, support fast food workers, support Uber drivers, support any low-wage worker who is struggling for freedom and respect and dignity on the job. It's our responsibility to stand with them and to give back because other people stood up and supported us when we began this fight. So that was, all right. So this year, it seems like every year in 32 BJ, one of our major contracts expires. So this year was the year of our residential contract. Next year is the year of our commercial cleaning contract. And 2020 is the year of?
Security.
The year of?
Security.
The year of?
Security.
That's right. So, this was a great year. We won an incredible residential contract, but I got to tell you, the building owners, who are incredibly wealthy, the value of their buildings continues to skyrocket. You see cranes everywhere. You see this colonization happening in Queens and Brooklyn and the Bronx that just won't stop. And it's very hard to stop that, but one thing that we always try to do as 32BJ is to make sure that if they're going to build all that shit, it's got to have good jobs with good benefits and union members doing those jobs. So, we've been in fights with all of these residential developers. Every time they try to put up a new building, they have their hand out to get tax breaks and all kinds of help from the government, but then they think they can put a non-union, low-wage person to do the jobs in the building, and we will just not stand for that. What I'll tell you was even worse in the residential contract was that they wanted to mess with our health insurance. They wanted to open the door to our members paying part of that cost of the health care premium. And they tried to make it sound like it was something that wasn't a big deal. If you just pay a little tiny bit, like 2% of the health care, but you got to pay part of the premium. What happens if you open that door? They're going to want something else. They're going to want more. They're going to start off with some small number. Pretty soon they're going to want you to pay a quarter of it or half of it. Pretty soon you have $50, $75 a week coming out of your check to cover your health care. And most unions in this country have already lost that battle. Most union members, and remember, only 1 out of every 7 workers in this country has a union. And less than 1 out of every 3 workers in New York City. The strongest union town in America, only 1 out of every 3 workers are in a union. All the new construction happening, the building trades, all the folks who historically were union, most of the new buildings getting built in this city are being built with non-union labor. So when they say they're coming after our health care, they're not playing. The building owners are bargaining with the operating engineers, the guys who operate all the systems and run the buildings here in New York City, and they have the same demand for premium sharing. So you can be certain that when the commercial contract comes up, when the security contract comes up, they're going to have that same demand. And we say, hands off our health insurance, and we'll do whatever it takes, including strike, to not have to pay for our premium. So I want you all to see a quick video, a little highlight of what we did earlier this year with the residential contract campaign, which that contract was back in April that it expired. So we're going to take a look at a quick video now.
Tentative agreement tonight to avoid a strike of New York City apartment building doormen, porters, and handymen. More than 30,000 workers, some of whom rallied earlier this week for a new contract, reaching this tentative agreement with the Realty Advisory Board of New York City. Contract was set to expire April 20th. This tentative deal calls for wage increases that average nearly 3%.
Give a hand for your doorman, kid.
So, did anybody here get any mail from the union over the last couple weeks talking about Presbyterian Hospital?
Yeah.
All right, this is how I tell if anybody opens their mail or not. So, you know, a lot of times you get bills, right? It's like you get a parking ticket on your dashboard, right? You just like throw it out, right? But that gets you in trouble later. If you don't read the mail you're getting from the union, you might not be as informed about stuff that's happening that affects your life and affects your health insurance. So I want to give you a quick update. We've been having a lot of issues with Presbyterian Hospital Network because Presby charges radically higher prices for the same medical procedures and as other hospital networks in New York City. A hip replacement at most hospitals is about $57,000, and the union covers all of that, right? But in Presby, they charge $83,000. A colonoscopy, which you got to do when you turn 50, is $2,000 at most hospitals in New York City. Presby charges $8,000. Every dollar extra that Presby charges is a dollar out of your pocket because 32BJ is self-insured. We bargain with the building owners and the contractors to get the money for your health care so you don't have to pay for your health care. And what they say when the cost of health care goes up, they say, and it does go up every year, what they say is, we don't have any money left for your raises, or we can only give you 15 cents. Any of you who have been in bargaining know that the companies start out by offering a 15-cent raise or a 10-cent raise, and it's a fight to get every nickel and every dime out of the building owners or the contractors. So Presby has basically been ripping off 32BJ and city workers and other folks who work in New York City who use that network. There is no doubt that they have high quality, but we had to bring these costs under control, and we had a fight with Presby in the press. We had advertisements. We put a lot of pressure on Presby, and the outcome of that fight is that they have agreed to lower the cost increases going forward. Let's say, I'm making up the numbers, but let's say they wanted to increase the cost by 8% a year going forward. We got them to lower that down closer to 3 or 4. So that will help prevent escalating double-digit healthcare increases, and the more the cost of healthcare goes up, the less money that's left over for wage increases, right? So you all need a wage increase in New York. If you live in New York City, you need a wage increase, right? Yeah. Let me ask you something. Does your rent go up every year?
Hell yeah.
Does your rent go up sometimes? Somebody said that the landlord tried to raise their rent for the 3rd time this year. I mean, and that's the kind of the downside of something like Amazon coming in, right? Because now prices and rents are going to get driven up in Queens the same way they've been getting driven up in Brooklyn, right? So this city is becoming more and more unaffordable for working people. And even our cleaners who make $55,000 a year are struggling to continue to live in New York City. So the bottom line with Presby, going forward after April, if you feel that strongly that Presby is the only place you will go to have an elective surgery, such as a hip replacement or a knee replacement or something like a colonoscopy, or you want to have the bariatric surgery because your stomach's too big or whatever, you want to do one of those surgeries that are scheduled surgeries, and you make the decision that you have to be at Presby, it will cost you more in terms of the copay. Any other hospital network other than, well, there's over 100 hospitals that are charging fair prices that are within 32BJ's network. And if you go to one of those more than 100 hospitals, you will continue to pay the same $100 hospital copay, even if your surgery costs $50,000. But if you do that surgery at Presby, the new copay for you will be $1,000. So the point here is, if you have a choice between going to NYU, for example, or Presby for a scheduled procedure, we want you to go to a place like NYU that is charging the more moderate prices with the same successful outcomes. So to maintain our network and access to quality care, in some ways it's the same thing we do with the 5-star centers. If you go to a 5-star center, you pay a $0 copay. If you go to your own private doctor who's in the Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield network, you pay 40 bucks. I pay my 40 bucks when I go to my doctor because I've been with my doctor a long time. But if you go to the health center on 7th Avenue, you could go 10 times a year and still have $0 copay every time you go. And if you have children, you know that those doctor's visits add up. 40 here, 40 there, 40 there. Pretty soon you're talking $500–600 bucks. So you just need to think about this. You should read the materials you've got on Presby. We should have some flyers lying around about Presby. It shows the 83,000 versus the 58,000. These changes are not happening until April, but I wanted everyone to be aware of them. And Presby really needs to try to get in line and stop spending so much money on advertising and promoting themselves, and lower their prices so that people actually, so they don't bankrupt our union health fund. Well, our health fund is solid, but we always have to be thinking about the future. And if the healthcare costs go up too much, it's less money for wages. Plain and simple. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
All right, so, see, is he standing now? So he's going to give me the hook. You see, he's going to get me out. So, all right, so I'm going to turn it over to Doreen Watt, one of our great member leaders, who's going to talk about some major developments and challenges that we've had with the City of New York work with the Department of Homeless Services over the last couple months. So I want you all to give a warm welcome to Doreen Watt.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Doreen Watt, and I work for FJC, Allied University, on the Department of Homeless Services contract. Right. In September of this year, our contract got canceled on DHS. We got a loss of federal funding, 78 shelters under DHS. Our workers was on the verge of losing their jobs and losing their health care. Our union stepped in, they had a plan, they put a plan together. They brought in as many members as they could to come to various meetings to help us to get put back to work. I told you we're 778, right? Right. Because of 32 BJ union, 500 of the members got placed back to work, and they still are working on the remaining members getting placed back to work.
All right.
It's so that we can keep our health care, keep our jobs. You know, I just want to say that I'm real grateful, I'm real thankful, because you got a lot of people working in New York City, and not many have a union to fight for them. Mm-hmm. Let's give 32 BJ a hand.
Yes.
If we didn't have this union, we would be out of work, out of our health care, and anything else that comes along with it. So, in conclusion, I just want to say, in time of the hardship, 32 BJ made sure that myself and the 778 workers got placed back to work. And I just want to say thank you.
Give another round for Doreen.
All right.
Some of the things, this is the best thing that I like to have everybody get together, because some of us, we're in our own little workplaces, right? And sometimes we don't see what goes on in the whole city. So bringing everybody together and having as many security officers come together and share each other's stories and all the other stuff 32 BJ is doing is very important. This union is built on us leaning on each other. This union is built on us supporting each other, what Dennis said, what the doormen and the cleaners did for us is what we have to do as good union members for fast food, what we got to do for airports, what we have to do for the taxi workers. Being a good union member is giving a little bit of your time to bring somebody else up, because somebody helped bring us up. Okay, so we good? Yeah. So who I want to, there's a couple other victories I want to talk about. I want to introduce Darissa Gonzalez, who's our CGC rep. Give her a hand. She's going to go over the CGC report 2018.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. How are we feeling today?
Good.
So, we know, hello. So, you all know, I've been dealing with the grievances for the last year. You guys know how much everything you do, don't do, or your account managers and supervisors allege that you do gets scrutinized. They're watching everything you guys do. So we want to make sure that we enforce this contract. We want to make sure that they forget to see the people who are working behind those contracts and that money that they're getting from those companies. That's why I come here every day, making sure that they don't forget that these are people, these are mothers, fathers, grandfathers, people with second jobs, people who, we have guards who live in homeless shelters right now. So don't come and tell me you don't have money when I have people who can't put food on the table or a roof over their head. So I just wanted to remind you that even though we have this contract, that's the first battle. Our real war is making sure we enforce this contract, making sure we remind them, we're union here. You cannot treat me however you want to be treated. I have 120,000 people backing me up from all the way along the Eastern Coast. And we have to make sure we don't let these big companies, especially Allied Universal / FHC, we have to make sure that they do not forget that they do not forget who 32 BJ security guards are. So on that note, so we have been able to place, we've had, again, they scrutinize everything you guys do. For any quick thing, they're ready to remove you off the schedule, customer demand, whatever nonsense they came up with. We have been able to